The Girl with the Sawfish Tattoo, Episode 7 of Netflix's One Piece adaptation. And as you can probably guess by the title, this episode is Nami's origin story. Speaking of Nami's story, we're told it through flashback, obviously, and it's kind of spliced in throughout the episode. But I'm just going to cover it right here and now, just because constantly jumping between past and present and everyone's different stories and what they're doing can be kind of confusing. So yeah, Nami, basically she grew up poor. She grew up with her adopted sister, Nojiko, who they have race changed in this. I don't know what, well, I was going to say I don't know why they race change her, but I think I know why they race change her, because why wouldn't they race change her? I'm not saying that I completely care too much about the race change. I would just say, I don't know, it just kind of seems like, why would you do it? Like, if it's not that important to change it, then why change it? Especially since you've already done a really good job of keeping everyone else as close to their manga counterpart as possible. I mean, the only other change that I really see was, I guess I would say, Sham of the Kuro Pirates. Sham's supposed to be a dude, but in this adaptation, she's a girl. So, yeah, again, like, I'm not, well, I guess Usopp as well, because Usopp isn't black in the anime or the manga. He's tanned, but he's not black. So I guess that was another race change. I don't know. Like I said, I honestly don't really care. I'm just kind of bringing it up because this one, I don't really get why. Especially since, to me, maybe it's just one of those where, like, with certain mangas, a lot of characters tend to, like, look the same. Like, as much as I love Dan to Dan has a problem where, like, everyone almost has, like, the same face. So maybe that's just what it is. But in the manga, Nojiko and Nami, like, look pretty damn similar to the point where, like, they don't even really seem like adopted sisters. They seem more like they're blood related, even though they're not. But whatever. I'm going too much onto this. Nojiko's race change, it doesn't bother me, but I don't see the point in why they did it in the first place. But yeah, she lives with her adopted sister and her adopted mother, Belmere. I will say that I found this scene a little bit, I don't want to say cringy, cheesy. It's very over the top. Look how happy everybody is running through the fields, making pinwheels out of orange peels. Like, it just looks overly cheesy. Like, all right, we're going to have something terrible happen to this family, so let's show how much they love each other and how happy they are before we change things. So, yeah, it just, I don't know. When I was watching this, I was kind of just laughing at myself. I'm like, okay, I think you overdid it a little bit too much. But yeah, Belmere. So Belmere is a former Marine who basically something happened to her squad. They were, like, all killed. She's the only one that survived. She was, like, wandering this, like, battlefield. She believed that she was going to die because she hadn't had any food or water in a long time. And then she stumbles across Nojiko and Nami hiding under this cart. And she knew that, she would have to live for them because they have no one to take care of them. So Belmere takes it upon herself to raise these two as her own daughter. And so they live in this shack in this tangerine grove, and they're poor. They basically, all they eat all the time is tangerines because they can't really afford anything else. And Nami's resorting to stealing. She steals, like, this book because she becomes, like, obsessed with maps and stuff. And Belmere finds out, gets upset. And Nami lashes out, says that she's tired of living, the poor life. She's tired of having to eat tangerines all the time. Nojiko's not really her sister. Belmere's not really her mom. Basically, they have, like, an argument, but it gets fixed pretty easily. And Nami goes and, like, returns the book and stuff. And then the village gets attacked by Arlong and his crew. And the village, they changed the name to Coco Village. Whereas in the manga, it's Kokoyashi Village. But I can understand that change. At least they kept the Coco part. So it gets attacked by Ongs, and he basically demands tribute from everybody, including Belmere. And so Belmere pays her tribute, but Arlong finds out that Belmere's not living by herself. She actually has two daughters, and Belmere doesn't have the money to pay their tribute. So instead, she basically says, take my tribute as their payment instead. And that results in Arlong shooting Belmere in front of Nojiko and Nami, but sparing the two girls. I will just say that this part was kind of, I don't know. I kind of wish that Belmir would have put up somewhat of a fight. I mean, I guess I know why she didn't, because her daughters are there. But in the manga, she actually like fights back against Arlong. Here, like she tries to shoot him, but as soon as he opens the door, he like stops her, which just kind of makes her look kind of weak. Whereas in the manga, she actually fights him and is able to pin him down. So she puts up more of a fight in the manga, which is kind of weird because you would think, you know, a Netflix adaptation, you would think that they would take the manga route where the girl actually seems more powerful instead of making her weaker. Because usually, like, you know, when it comes to like modern day stuff, they try to make the girls seem like stronger than they are in their original counterpart. But here they're making Belmir a bit weaker. So that was kind of interesting. But yeah, the girls are spared. Sometime later, Nami shows up to Arlong and tells him she wants to join the crew. And she basically shows a map that she drew. And it's like one of the best maps that Arlong has ever seen. Like it's super detailed. It's better than any other fishman or human drawn map that he's seen. And he's like, why do you want to join my crew? Like, I murdered your mom. And she says, because I want a deal. I want to make a deal with you. I'll join your crew. I'll make you your maps and stuff like that. And in return, I want you to leave Coco Village alone. And so Arlong is like, all right, I will allow you to buy Coco Village from me for 100 million berries. And that's basically like the whole story. It is different than in the manga. In the manga, Arlong's a lot worse, which is why I don't know why you didn't go with the more manga faithful, especially if you want to make Arlong seem like the big bad villain in this season. Because, I mean, that's one of the problems with One Piece, the Netflix adaptations, that there's no, like, true number one villain. I guess you can kind of say Garp, but Garp's not really a villain. Arlong would have been, like, the perfect one, and he still is a villain. He's still villainous, but I'm surprised he didn't stick towards the manga, which would make him even more villainous. And what I mean by that is, in the manga, Nami does not go up to Arlong and make a deal with him. Arlong kidnaps Nami, and basically, like, he discovers that she's good with maps, so he kidnaps her for her skills, and he puts her in this room, like, he locks her away in this tiny room. Here in the Netflix adaptation, the room is the map room that you see Nami in a couple of times, and it's a lot bigger and stuff. In the manga, it's like really small. It's like this tiny little room, and Nami is kept chained there. You kind of get like a brief hint that Nami might have been chained here, because when she's in this room, she sees like chains that, you know, look like they attach to someone's feet, and she kind of stares at it for a short while, but we never actually see her in those chains, at least not in this episode. But yeah, Arlong in the manga, he kidnaps her, locks her up in this tiny room, keeps her chained so that she draws maps for him. And that's when like the deal ends up. Basically, she like refuses after a while, and then he's like, I'll make you a deal. You give me 100 million berries, and I'll let you buy Kokoyashi Village and free everybody. I won't bother them again. So yeah, here Nami has, I guess, more agency, so maybe that's why they did it. But yeah, I kind of like the manga version more, just because it makes Arlong even more of a asshole. But yeah, that's basically Nami's story. She lives in the Tangerine Grove with her adopted sister and mom. Her mom sacrifices herself for the two girls. Nami makes a deal with Arlong to buy back the village, and everyone gets pissed off at her for that. Well, they get pissed off at her because they don't know. So the village is unaware that Nami's making this deal, whereas in the manga they are. So yeah, here they treat her a lot worse than they did in the manga, because in the manga they know that she has a deal with Arlong and stuff. But yeah, in the present day, the Straw Hat crew, we have like some funny bickering, bantering with Buggy, which you know, I always love. Like, Buggy is he's the breakout star to me in this series. I was not expecting that at all, to be honest, because Buggy, like, he's kind of forgettable in the manga, at least to me he is. But here, like, I think he's probably like, I mean, obviously my favorite character is still Zoro, but Buggy is like way up there, which I was not expecting at all. But yeah, we get bantering between Buggy and the gang until eventually they come across Coco Village, and they're like walking through the village, and they see that it's like dilapidated and just messed up. There's one point where they see a house has like been completely upturned, so it's like upside down. And yeah, Arlong like did that. And eventually they discover all the villagers, because like at first the village is like deserted, and then they find out that all the villagers are gathered in this one area where they're trying to gather as much money as they can to pay tribute to Arlong so that he will leave them alone. But they realize that they don't have enough money. And that's when Nami shows up, because Arlong has sent Nami to Coco Village to get the tribute money. And so Nami shows up. Everyone's like pissed off and angry at her because here in the series, nobody knows that she's actually trying to buy the village freedom, whereas in the manga they do. But yeah, we see like Luffy sees Nojiko like spit in front of Nami and walk away, and yeah, Nami gets the money, realizes that there's not enough, and as she's walking away with the tribute money, she notices Luffy and the gang, and she confronts them, tells them to leave her alone, that she was never part of his stupid crew, that she doesn't need his help, and yeah, she basically leaves. And Usopp and Zoro buy this story, but Sanji is like, she's lying. Like, women never women never tell you the truth. They're always hiding something. I was like, well, Sanji is right in that regard, in the sense that Nami is hiding something. She's hiding the truth from them, obviously. And so Luffy's like, you know, I gotta agree with Sanji. She's hiding something. We don't know what it is, but maybe Nojiko knows. They show up to Nojiko's little shack where she pulls out a gun on them. And eventually Sanji wins her over by saying, hey, I'll cook you a meal, and in return, you just give us some information on Nami. And that's when like Nojiko realizes that Luffy and the gang have been done in by Nami, in a sense. That Nami made the gang believe that she was part of their group and then abandoned them. So Nojiko's like, all right, I guess I can trust these guys for a bit. So she eats a meal from Sanji, and then she tells the story. And it's the story that I already told earlier. But she basically just finishes that flashback, so we, the audience, can understand what Nami's story is. Except, of course, we don't get the part where Nami goes to make a deal with Arlong to free the village. Instead, all Nojiko believes is that Nami decided to team up with their mother's killer for no reason. Like, she doesn't know why Nami did it, so she hates Nami because of that. We have a scene where some Marines show up, and they have made a deal with Arlong where they were basically ignore Arlong in like what he does, like his pirating and raiding and stuff, and in return they would pay tribute to him, to the Marines. Basically it's like hush money. And Nami basically is talking to Arlong about the deal and says, hey, I have the 100 million berries, I want to buy Coco Village. And Arlong's like, all right, tomorrow at sunrise, bring the money. And then she leaves. And that's when Arlong sets up Nami. He basically tells the Marines, hey, this pirate has stolen 100 million berries, go get it. And so Nami is digging up the money, which she has buried in her mother's grave, when Nojiko shows up and they get into a fight. And then eventually Nami explains the rest of the flashback, which is that she made the deal with Arlong in return for trying to gather money to buy the freedom of Coco Village. And the Marines show up, they steal the money, take it back. And we have this like scene where like, I don't know, I found it kind of weird in the sense that like, okay, first off, there's only like 5 Marines and they don't look all that tough. And Nami doesn't fight them at all. Like, we have one scene where she kind of like rushes towards them, but then Nojiko holds her back. And I'm just like, Nami, we've seen Nami fight off an army of Marines before in the very first episode. I'm pretty sure she can take out these 5 Marines pretty easily. And also the fact that like she's screaming and stuff, and where's Luffy in the gang? They're there, they're nearby. They didn't leave the shack, so they should have been able to hear this confrontation, but they never show up. And yeah, I don't know. I think maybe it would have been better if there's either more Marines or if they had like their guns out and trained on Nami and Nojiko. That would have made more sense to me, but they don't. Like, they don't have their weapons out or anything. They're just there. And it's like Nami can easily dispatch of these 5, but she doesn't really put up a fight at all. She just stands there as they take the money. I mean, she screams, but she doesn't really do anything else. So yeah, and then of course the Marines, they walk away with the money, and we see Nami chasing after them, and she's like sprinting through the grove, but she never catches up to the Marines, despite the fact that the Marines are walking away. They're not running away with the money. So the fact that she never catches up to them is just kind of, I was like, all right, how fast are these freaking Marines? Did they like flash step back to their ship or something? Arlong gives this speech where it's like this racist speech against humans and how fishmen are superior. And then he basically says that we're going to start wiping out humanity. That's his goal. His goal is to destroy all of humankind. And they're going to start with the village, with Coco Village. And yeah, Nami, like I said, she's trying to chase after the Marines, but she doesn't catch up to them. She falls to her knees and starts screaming, and she takes out a knife and starts stabbing at her tattoo when Luffy appears and he stops her. And like I like this moment here where like Nami is like, I told you to leave, and Luffy's like, you did. And that's like kind of like all he says. And then Nami like breaks down crying, and she begs Luffy, like, she's like, help me. And Luffy's like, of course I will. And he takes off his straw hat and puts it on her head, and then walks back to the rest of his crew. And everyone's like, all right, let's go save this village. And I was kind of surprised about this too, because I was not expecting a modern day TV series to have a woman crying and begging for a man to help her. Because usually it'll be like the other way around. But yeah, and I like this moment because it helps show Nami's change in character, in the sense that her entire life she's never relied on anybody. She's always gone lone wolf. She refuses to ever ask for help or anything like that. And now she finally begs for help, and it's because this means way too much for her. Like, she spent her whole life doing things she didn't want to do to try to save this village. And right when she's so close, it all gets taken away from her. And now she sees, like, Luffy is like, maybe he can help me. And she asks for help. So this is like the first time she's ever really asked anybody for help. And it also kind of shows that she finally is trusting Luffy. Like, before, when I say trusting, I don't mean so much as like she believes Luffy's going to like betray her or anything like that. But like, she finally understands the kind of character that Luffy is, that he never turns down those in need, that he's someone that you can rely on for help. And of course, we get Luffy where he's finally serious, where he's always kind of happy, goofy, he's goofy, happy-go-lucky, and now he's like, of course I'll help you, like, and he's like serious, like he does like the walk away, serious face, angry. It's like the first time like you really see Luffy like just really pissed off, outside of when his hat gets damaged and stuff. And and the rest of the crew is like, all right, let's do this. And that's when they hear gunshots and screaming, and they realize that Coco Village is being raided. And that's the end of the episode. But there's like one other part I want to talk about before we end this, and that's with Garp. And that's because this whole section with Garp is actually Netflix original. So Garp shows up at Barati. And this never happens in the manga. It never happens in the anime. And it turns out that there's a past between Garp and Zepp. Well, not really a past, because Garp only says that he knows Zepp by reputation. But they know each other because of reputation. Garp knows Zepp as a famous pirate captain. And Zepp knows Garp, obviously, as a famous marine. Yeah, basically, Garp is questioning Zepp about Luffy. Like, he knows that Luffy has been around here. He asks him, like, where is he? And Zepp refuses to give up Luffy's location. He plays dumb at first, but then he just kind of says, like, I'm not going to tell you. And instead, he says, how about I cook you a meat? I got some T-bone steaks. I'll cook you some. And of course, as we all know, Luffy's bloodline is pretty much obsessed with meat. So they have like a dinner. And as they're having dinner, they're talking about like the past and stuff. And Garp keeps asking about Luffy's whereabouts. Zepp's like, there's something about that kid. I think he's going to do some great things. Like, he reminds me a lot of Gold Roger. And of course, Garp doesn't like this because he's like, y'all, like, you realize what happened to Gold Roger. Like, he ended up on the wrong end of a Marine's spear. I don't want the same thing to happen too. And he kind of stops himself. But now we start kind of figuring out why he's so gung-ho to chase down Luffy. It's not because Luffy disappointed him by becoming a pirate instead of a Marine or anything like that. He's trying to stop him because he knows if he doesn't stop him, then some other Marine is eventually going to go after him. And other Marines won't be as forgiving as he is. Garp does not want to see Luffy dead. He loves his grandson. He wants to protect him. He's willing to throw him in prison or something, but he doesn't want to see him be executed. but other Marines won't feel the same way. So now we start to realize why Garp is so gung-ho to hunt down Luffy and capture him. And I just kind of like that moment. And I just like Zepp basically like seeing how much Luffy has grown on him and how he's seeing big things in this kid. And he even tells Zepp like, hey, I think our time is done. I think it's time for the new generation. Like it's their time now to shine. It's their time to step up and be the full front of this world. Like we're getting old. Our time is nearing an end. And Garp refuses to believe this. We have a moment where Kobe and Himelpo are drinking, and Kobe reveals that Garp is Luffy's grandfather. And then the waiter who's like giving them drinks says like, yeah, like a Straw Hat came around here. I know where he's going. And so yeah, Garp now knows the direction that Luffy's heading for. And so Garp tells Marines to start heading towards Konomi Islands, which is where the Coco Village is at. But yeah, that's basically the entire episode. I liked it. It's I prefer like the previous episodes more. I'll just say like I don't hate Nami as a character. I think her flashback, like it makes her, you understand why she does what she does. You understand why she became a thief, why she pushes people away and stuff, why she refuses to get close to people, because she's just going to end up betraying them in the end so that she can get money so she can bring it back and pay off the village and stuff. But I found Sanji's story, I don't know, better. And of course, Zoro. I enjoyed their origin stories way more than I did Nami's. I think this did do a good job of portraying Arlong as a dirtbag villain, though I think the manga does a better job just because of his mistreatment of Nami when she was younger, rather than Nami having the agency to join the group herself. I don't know. I like the original better, where she's forced into this arrangement, because then it really makes it seem like she has no other choice than to try to get the money back. But I did like the moment with Nami and Luffy where she finally asks for help, and Luffy, says, "Of course I will." I mean, that's a good response too. Not just like, yeah, I'll help you or anything, but just the fact that he's like, "Of course I will," because that's his character. When people ask for help, Luffy's the kind of person who's like, "Of course I'll help you. It doesn't matter that you betrayed me and the crew and stuff like that. Of course I'm going to help you. You're still part of this crew, even if you." Even if you abandon us, you're still a Straw Hat. I like that. It's interesting that Buggy's still around. I did find it kind of weird that we see Buggy's body earlier in the episode. It's just kind of... So here, Arlong's like village, or like Arlong's base, it kind of has like a carnival theme. I don't know why it didn't in the manga, but here it does. And there's I don't know the name of the carnival game. But it's like you throw like balls at like pins or whatever, and then you win a prize. And one of the prizes is Buggy's body. And I'm just like, who wants Buggy's body? Like, what are these fishermen gonna do with Buggy's body as a prize? I don't think I want to know. But yeah, this was like I said, it was a good episode, but not really one of my favorites. Probably. All I have to say is probably my least favorite one so far. It has its good moments and stuff, but overall, I don't know. It didn't really like impact me or entertain me as much as previous episodes did. So there you go. There's the girl with the Sawfish Tattoo. A good episode, but in my opinion, one of the weaker ones in the series. But we got one more episode to go, and then we're done with the first season. So yeah, let's see how that one goes. Let's see how they end this. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Hope to see you next time. Take care. Later.